Okay, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Feedback, especially when it's not exactly glowing,
Yeah.
can feel pretty rough.
Like a punch to the gut. Right.
Totally.
But what if I told you that feedback,
Mm-hmm.
even the tough stuff like criticism, could actually be,
Yeah.
your secret weapon for growth?
Okay, I'm listening.
We're going to really deep dive into how to take feedback
Okay.
and turn it from something you might dread
Mm-hmm.
into a superpower.
I love that. Turning feedback into a superpower.
It's pretty amazing how feedback,
Yeah.
it's like a mirror,
How interesting.
It can show us things about ourselves, our work that we might not see otherwise.
I see what you mean.
Blind spots, hidden strengths, the kind of things we might miss if we were just on our own.
Yeah, that mirror analogy, I love that.
Yeah,
It's so true. And you know what? We're actually exploring
Oh, cool.
a fascinating study today on this very topic, turning feedback into growth opportunities.
I like it.
And get this, it features this case study
Okay.
about a marketing professional named Elena
All right.
who took some seriously harsh criticism and actually used it
Wow.
to her advantage.
That's interesting. You know what? It's funny because research actually shows that
Oh, really?
we often fall into this trap
Uh-huh.
called self-serving bias.
Okay.
We love to take all the credit for our wins, right?
Oh, yeah.
But then we tend to blame outside factors for any failures. It's much easier that way.
Yeah.
Feedback, especially from other people,
Right.
can help us break that bias.
Yeah.
And it can offer a fresh perspective, which
Yeah.
we sometimes really need.
That's so true. So this deep dive,
Yeah.
it's all about building resilience
I like it.
when it comes to feedback, right?
Okay.
So we're talking about turning potential negativity
Yeah.
into a superpower.
Exactly.
By the end of this, you'll not only get why feedback is so important, but you'll also walk away
Ooh, what?
a really practical exercise
Nice.
and actionable tips
Love it.
to actually process feedback constructively,
Oh, where this is going.
just like Elena did in the case study.
Think of resilience as
Yeah.
that inner strength, right?
Okay.
That helps you detach
Uh-huh.
from that emotional sting of criticism
Yeah.
and just focus on the message itself.
Oh, that's so important.
It is.
Because sometimes, let's be honest,
Yeah.
the way that feedback is delivered, it can be,
A little rough around the edges.
yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah.
But if we can just focus on the content, that actual information,
Right.
that's where the real gold is.
Absolutely. And I think it's also important to remember that feedback,
Uh-huh.
even when it's not delivered well,
Yeah.
is usually meant to help you improve.
Yeah.
Not to personally attack you.
Totally. So it's not about you
Yeah.
as a person. It's about the work and getting better.
Leveling up. Exactly.
Leveling up, yeah, whether it's in your career,
Yeah.
relationships, or any area of life, really,
Totally.
where you're looking to grow.
Right.
So, okay, let's talk about Elena for a second.
Okay.
This marketing superstar.
Uh-huh.
She poured her heart and soul
Yeah.
into a campaign, and then, bam,
Oh, no.
her manager
It happened.
just tears it apart in a meeting.
Ow.
Tells her it's off-brand
Oh, that's gotta hurt.
and all over the place.
Yeah.
Ouch, right?
Her experience is so relatable, though,
Yes.
I think we've all been there at some point. That feeling when you put your all into something
Totally.
and then it
Yeah.
gets harshly criticized.
Totally, yeah. So Elena's crushed.
Understandably.
Feels totally personally attacked.
Yeah.
I think anyone would
Right.
in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
But here's where it gets interesting.
Okay. Listen.
Instead of
Yeah.
spiraling or getting defensive,
Right.
she takes a step back
Okay.
and she has this realization.
Mm-hmm.
Her manager, he isn't criticizing her as a person.
Right.
He's trying to make the campaign better.
Okay.
And that shift in perspective
Yeah.
is what allows her to really turn things around.
That's so powerful,
Yeah.
turning a negative experience into a growth opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
It's great that Elena didn't just passively accept that criticism.
Yeah.
She actively engaged with it, which I think is key.
So how did she do that?
Yes.
How were those steps?
Yeah, what does she do?
Fill us in.
The study breaks down her approach into 3 key steps.
Okay, I like it.
The first step
Yep.
is all about resisting that urge
Mm-hmm.
to get defensive.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of going into that next meeting ready to argue,
Yeah.
she goes in ready to listen
Okay.
and ask clarifying questions.
That makes so much sense because I know I've been guilty of getting defensive in the past.
Yeah, me too.
And it just, shuts down any chance of actually understanding the feedback.
It's a natural reaction.
It is.
But it can really hinder our ability to learn and grow.
Totally.
By actively listening.
Yeah.
Elena opened herself up to understanding her manager's perspective, which is so crucial for bridging that gap.
Okay, so step 1.
Yeah.
Active listening.
Active listening. What about step 2?
Step 2 is all about reflection.
Okay.
So Elena, she took time to actually analyze the feedback objectively.
Okay.
She asked herself, you know, how could her campaign better align with the brand's goals and their messaging? There was no ego. It was just honest self-assessment.
Okay, so she listened, she reflected.
Yes.
And then
Step 3 is where she took action.
Okay.
So Elena,
she completely reworked that whole campaign.
Wow.
Incorporating her manager's feedback.
Okay.
And she really focused on what mattered most. And guess what?
What happened? The revised campaign was a hit.
Exactly.
Wow.
Huge success.
Elena's story really shows us that even harsh criticism can be a stepping stone to something amazing.
Totally.
Especially if you approach it with resilience and that willingness to learn.
Yes, and adapt.
And adapt.
It's like taking that lump of coal
I like this.
and turning it into a diamond, right?
That is a great analogy.
Thank you.
But, you know, the question is, how can you actually apply this in your own life?
Right.
That's where things get really practical.
Yes, they do.
The study outlines this fantastic exercise.
Oh, cool.
It's a series of questions.
Okay.
You can ask yourself anytime you receive feedback.
I like it.
Think of it like a toolkit for turning feedback into fuel, right?
I love that.
So walk us through it.
Okay, happy to.
What's that first question?
All right, the first question is simple.
Okay.
What was the feedback?
Okay.
Just write it down as objectively as possible. No emotional reactions or interpretations, just the facts.
So it's like getting down to the bare bones of what was actually said.
Exactly, just the facts.
No drama added.
No drama. Now, this next question is where things get a little more personal.
Okay.
And the second question is, what was my initial reaction? This is where we get real with ourselves.
Okay, I'm ready.
Think about how that feedback made you feel.
Okay.
Were you defensive, angry, maybe a little hurt?
Right.
Or were you surprised, relieved,
Yeah.
maybe even motivated?
Okay.
Be really honest with yourself about that initial emotional response.
And there are no right or wrong answers here, right?
Exactly.
It's just about acknowledging how we felt.
Just acknowledging, understanding your emotional responses is key because it helps you identify patterns in how you react to feedback.
I see.
Okay.
Okay, so we've got the feedback itself and our initial reaction laid out.
What's next?
What's next?
This is where the real magic happens.
Okay, hit me.
Question 3.
Yeah.
What can I learn from this? This is where you shift
Uh-huh.
from feeling to thinking,
Okay.
from reacting to reflecting.
Oh, I like that.
So we're taking a step back and we're looking at the feedback from a more objective perspective.
Okay.
What's the goal here?
Yeah, what are we trying to do?
The goal is to extract at least one
Okay.
actionable insight from that feedback.
I see.
Something you can actually do differently
Uh-huh.
or better.
So it's like taking that raw feedback and turning it into a recipe for improvement.
Exactly.
Okay, I love that.
All right, and finally, question 4.
Okay, bring it on.
What's my next step?
Oh, interesting.
This is where you move from insight to action.
Action, I like it.
Based on what you've learned.
Yeah.
What concrete step can you take to apply that learning?
So it's about bridging that gap
Exactly.
between understanding and actually doing right.
Exactly.
Turning insight into action.
It's about empowering you to take control.
Okay.
And turn that feedback into positive change.
Oh, I love it.
So we've got these 4 powerful questions, but there's more.
Ooh, tell me more.
The study also outlines 5 actionable tips
Okay, ready.
for becoming what they called it a feedback ninja.
A feedback ninja.
A feedback ninja.
Okay, I love it.
These tips are like bonus tools to help you master the art of receiving
and processing feedback.
All right, I'm ready. Let's dive in.
All right. Tip number 1 is simple, but so important.
Okay.
Listen first.
Oh.
But before you jump to conclusions or get defensive, make sure you truly understand what the other person is trying to tell you.
It goes back to that active listening, right?
It does.
It's about being present, paying attention, and asking clarifying questions if you need to. It's about understanding before reacting.
Exactly. The second tip is a mantra.
Ooh, I love a good mantra.
You might want to write this down.
Okay, I've got my pen.
And keep it handy.
Okay.
Separate the message from the emotion.
Okay.
This is a big one because it's so easy to take feedback personally.
Totally. Especially when it's about something we care about deeply.
Yeah.
You know?
Our first instinct.
It's often to feel attacked or criticized, even if that's not the intention.
But remember, the feedback is about the work.
It is.
The action, the behavior.
It's not a judgment of your worth as a person.
That distinction is so important.
That's so important.
For building resilience.
All right, tip 3.
Okay, tip 3, let's hear it.
Look for patterns.
Okay.
If you're hearing the same feedback from multiple sources, there's a good chance there's something to it.
Okay.
It's like having multiple data points pointing to the same conclusion.
It's a signal, basically, to step back and assess. Right.
Yeah.
Whether there's a pattern in our behavior or approach.
It could be.
That might be contributing to this feedback.
Exactly. And sometimes we're blind to our own patterns.
We can be. That's great advice.
Okay, now tip 4.
Okay.
Might seem a little counterintuitive.
Okay.
But it can be a game changer.
Uh-oh. Okay, I'm ready.
Ask for feedback.
Wait.
Yeah.
So don't just wait for it.
Don't wait for it.
Actually seek it out.
Seek it out.
Okay.
Exactly. The more you do it, the less scary it becomes.
Right.
It's like anything else.
Yeah.
Practice makes perfect.
Yeah, totally. And by actively seeking it out, you're demonstrating a commitment to growth.
Exactly.
And creating opportunities for continuous improvement.
I love that. It takes courage, though, you know?
Yeah.
To put yourself out there.
It does. But I can see how it would pay off.
It does.
In the long run.
Totally. And one thing I've learned from all of this is it's important to be open to the feedback that you receive, even if it's not what you wanted to hear. The goal is to learn and grow.
Yeah.
Not to just seek validation approaching feedback with a growth mindset. Means embracing the opportunity to expand your perspective, even if it challenges your existing beliefs or assumptions.
It's about being willing to see things from a different angle.
Totally.
To consider new possibilities.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about why feedback is important. We've explored Elena's really inspiring journey.
Inspiring.
And we've even flipped the script, right?
Yeah.
By talking about actively seeking feedback.
Yes.
Instead of just waiting for it.
Instead of waiting.
To come to us.
Exactly.
But I feel like we've only scratched the surface.
We have. There's so much more to unpack.
There is so much more.
We've laid a solid foundation.
Okay.
But now it's time to dive into the practical side of turning feedback into growth.
I like it.
So we talked about earlier those 3 key steps that Elena used to turn that harsh criticism into a win.
Yeah, those are good.
Can we revisit those?
Yeah, let's revisit those. I think those are so valuable.
Okay, those steps, listening, reflecting, and applying. Are the core of the practical exercise we touched on earlier.
With those 4 questions, right?
Remember those 4 questions?
Yes. Those are great.
Yeah.
I think it'd be really helpful.
Yeah.
To like walk through them together.
Yeah,
right?
yes, let's do it.
Step by step.
Step by step.
So we can actually start applying this in our own lives.
Let's do it.
I'm ready.
Okay, great.
Flip in the script. Okay. Yeah. I'm intrigued. What are we flipping exactly?
Well, we've talked about how to handle feedback when it comes your way.
Right.
But what if instead of waiting for it, you actually sought it out?
Whoa. Okay, so it's like taking feedback. Reactive to proactive. Exactly. Instead of waiting for someone to point out, you know, areas for improvement, you're taking ownership and seeking out those growth opportunities.
Okay, I like that. Turning it into a habit.
It is. It's like a regular part of your growth process.
Yeah.
And think about it. The possibilities. Yeah. If you intentionally sought out feedback in all areas of your life.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
At work, in your relationships, creative projects, anything you're working on.
So you're almost like making it a habit.
It's like a regular check-in with yourself and with others.
Yeah.
And what's fascinating is that proactively seeking feedback can lead to unexpected discoveries. It can open doors to new perspectives and insights you might not have encountered otherwise.
So it's like when you
actively seek it out, you're basically signaling to people that you're open to learning and growing.
It shows humility, willingness to learn, a commitment to continuous improvement. And these are all qualities that are super valuable.
They are.
In any field.
So when you make a habit of seeking feedback, aren't you also like building up your resilience muscle?
You are. It's like
the more you do it, the more comfortable you become with hearing things that maybe you don't want to hear.
It's like training for a marathon.
Ooh, I like that analogy.
You know, each time you expose yourself to feedback, you're building your capacity to handle it constructively.
And it's not just about the feedback itself.
It's not just the feedback.
It's about like building that mental muscle.
Yeah, that resilience.
Yeah, that resilience.
So you can approach any criticism with more confidence and a willingness to learn.
So how can we start incorporating this into our own lives?
It can be as simple as asking a colleague for their thoughts on a project.
Okay.
Or checking in with a friend about how you handled a certain situation.
Right.
Or even asking for feedback on a creative piece you're working on.
So it's about being intentional.
It is.
Creating those opportunities instead
of just waiting.
Yeah, instead of waiting.
Exactly. The key is to be specific in your requests.
Oh, okay.
So instead of asking vague questions like, what do you think?
Yeah.
Try framing your inquiries to elicit targeted feedback.
I see.
So instead of, what do you think about this presentation?
Right. That's too broad.
You could say,
what aspects of this presentation do you think could be improved?
I like that.
Or how could I have handled that conversation?
Right. Yeah, the more specific, the better.
The more valuable that feedback will be.
And I think it's also important to be open to the feedback that you receive.
Absolutely.
Even if it's not what you were hoping to hear.
Right.
Because the goal is to learn and grow. Right.
Exactly. Not to seek validation.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point.
Approaching feedback with a growth mindset means embracing that opportunity to expand your perspective.
Even if it's challenging.
Even if it's tough.
Yeah. Your existing beliefs.
It could be.
Or assumptions.
Yeah.
It's about being willing to see things from a different angle.
Absolutely.
To consider new possibilities.
Okay, so we've talked about why feedback is important. We've explored Elena's journey, and we flipped the script.
We did.
Talking about proactively seeking feedback.
Actively seeking it out.
But I feel like we've only scratched the surface here.
There's more. There's so much more.
There is.
We've laid a solid foundation.
Yeah, we have.
But now it's time to really dive in to the practical side of turning feedback into growth.
Let's do it.
So we talked about those 3 key steps.
Right, that Elena used. To turn that harsh criticism into a win.
Can we revisit those?
Yes. Let's revisit those. I think they're so valuable.
Oh, they're so valuable.
Those 3 steps. Listening, reflecting, and applying. Are the core of the practical exercise.
Remember those 4 questions?
Yeah, those were great.
Yeah.
I think it would be helpful to like walk through those questions together.
Okay.
Step by step.
Step by step. Let's do it.
So we can really start applying this to our own lives.
I agree. Let's do it.
All right. I'm ready to walk through this exercise.
Yeah.
I think it'd be helpful to hear those questions again.
Yeah, definitely.
And think about how we can apply them to like specific feedback.
Yeah, real world examples.
That we've gotten, you know.
Exactly. So let's start by thinking about a piece of feedback you've received recently.
Okay.
It could be anything.
Yeah.
From work, from a personal relationship, even something someone said about, you know, a hobby you're passionate about.
Yeah, so it doesn't have to be some big dramatic thing.
It doesn't.
Even small feedback can be valuable.
Yeah.
if you know how to process it, right?
Exactly. So that first question to ask yourself is, what was the feedback?
Okay, what was the feedback? Got it.
Just write it down as objectively as possible.
Yeah.
No added drama.
Zero drama or interpretation.
Okay, so like taking a mental snapshot.
It is, yeah.
Of the feedback, right? Stripping away.
Yeah,
all the emotional layers.
Yeah, the emotional baggage.
And getting down to the bare bones.
The bare bones, just the facts.
Of what was actually said.
Exactly.
No drama added.
Now for that second question.
Okay.
What was my initial reaction?
Okay, initial reaction.
Be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
Did you feel defensive?
Okay.
Angry? Hurt? Or were you surprised? Relieved?
Okay.
Maybe even motivated?
Right. And no right or wrong answers.
No right or wrong.
Just how you felt.
Pure honesty.
Understanding your emotional responses is key.
Okay.
Because remember, there are no right or wrong emotions here.
Got it.
It's all valuable information.
Okay, so we've got the feedback itself.
Yeah.
And our initial reaction. Now.
This is the juicy part.
The juicy part, okay.
Question 3. Hit me.
What can I learn from this?
What can I learn from this?
This is where the magic happens.
This is where the magic happens.
This is where we shift from feeling to thinking.
Okay.
From reacting to reflecting.
Reacting to reflecting. I like it. We're taking that raw feedback and trying to extract some meaning from it.
Okay.
Turning it into something we can actually use.
I see.
The goal is to identify at least one actionable insight.
Right.
Something you can actually do differently or better.
So if the feedback was about improving my presentation skills, my next step might be take a public speaking class.
Exactly. Or if the feedback was about being more assertive in a relationship, your next step might be to have a conversation with your partner about your needs.
So this exercise, it's so powerful.
It is.
Because it gives you a framework, right?
It does.
To turn something that might initially feel negative.
Yeah, that initial spin.
Into a positive force for growth.
Absolutely.
And I love that it can be applied to
it's versatile.
Any kind of feedback.
It is. And don't forget those 5 tips we talked about.
The 5 tips?
They're like bonus tools to help you master that art of feedback.
Okay, so to recap.
Quickly.
We have listen first.
Listen first.
Separate the message from the emotion.
Yes.
Look for patterns.
Look for patterns.
Ask for feedback regularly.
Wait for it.
And celebrate progress.
Celebrate those wins.
Those tips are like guideposts, right?
They are.
Helping you navigate
the feedback terrain.
I think this deep dive has been really insightful.
I agree.
You've covered...
Yeah, we've covered a lot.
So much.
From understanding why feedback is crucial.
Yeah.
To exploring how to really turn it into a superpower for growth.
I love that we flipped the script and talked about actively seeking it out.
Instead of just waiting.
Instead of waiting.
Exactly.
So I think the key takeaway here is that feedback, even when it's tough.
Yeah, even when it's hard.
It's a gift.
It is. It's an opportunity to learn and grow.
Yeah.
To become the best versions of ourselves.
I love that the more you practice these techniques, the easier it becomes.
The easier it gets.
Keep learning. Keep growing.
Keep growing.
Embracing feedback.
And until next time.
Until next time. Keep diving deep.
Keep diving deep.